All right, let's see. All right, so we started the new sprint on Friday, and the topic that we discussed was continuous integration. And so, just to introduce the fact that we want to automate as much as possible the process of bringing code from the source control all the way to production. And for these for this part first sprint that we're going to be doing continuous integration, we're going to focus mostly on having an account, having the right permissions, having folders, hooking it up to your GitHub repository, checking to see if we can build the application, maybe even run the tests. And for right now, we're only going to notify perhaps if the test failed, but we're not going to do much about it, not yet. Next sprint, we're going to focus on stepping it up a little bit and not allowing the build to go forward and deploy to production if we see any errors happening. Also, mostly the testing that we've been focusing on is a Maven clean install on running the tests on the middle tier. We recently introduced being able to run tests on the client as well. We want to be able to run all the tests, right? The middle tier tests or the front end tests, and all of them have a say on whether the build should go forward, right? We want to make sure that that the middle tier tests are good, that the front end tests are also good. And we're going to run this in the remote machine, and if everybody, if all our tests are valid, the middle tier, the front end, then we would promote the code to go out to production. Next week we'll focus on first maybe doing the middle tier, right? And depending on the result of the middle tier, deciding to whether we go to production or not. And then we'll add more tests as we go and automate it as much as we can. We also did user acceptance testing. We did it somewhat informally. Let's revisit that a little more formal today from the point of view of the QA engineer, and we'll go forward using the more formal way of writing acceptance tests. Let's see. Today we'll focus on quality assurance. Typically in a project you have quite a few folks with different skills working on the same project. We've certainly been focusing mostly on the developer's point of view, how they view the project and do the use case analysis, design, implementation, and within the software lifecycle, within the interacting with other folks through Scrum and using the Agile methodology. There's certainly other folks that participate. We'll look at today at the quality assurance folks that from their point of view, how the application looks like. We'll see that there's a lot of overlap with what us software engineers do, and their roles have becoming more and more technical. It's quite different from early on when they were mostly just doing manual testing and trying to break our applications. Today, their roles they too are also responsible for automating a lot of their tests so that they can run repeatedly and identify any regressions. So we'll talk about QA today. In one of the sections we'll talk about automating tests from the QI's point of view, and we'll talk about how what the need of automating some of these tests, not all of them, but most of them, and we'll talk about a tool in particular that is very popular amongst QA engineers. We'll talk about Selenium. We'll do that on Friday, right, to talk about automating some of these UI tests. The last 2 or maybe 3 weeks, we're going to change the pace a little bit, and we're going to focus mostly on working on the remaining features of the application. We've been focusing mostly on the admin side of the application, right? where the UI has been fairly simple, just a couple of tables, lists, and simple forms, fairly structured, very, very structured. And mostly because we were learning some of these skills and becoming a little more confident on the entire stack. Also because most of our focus was just the process, the software engineering practice. But now that we find more ourselves perhaps a little more confident on the stack, we're going to focus on the other half of the application, which we haven't done anything, right? What does the application look like from the user? We've been focusing mostly on the application, the way it looks like from the administrator's point of view, right? But we'll focus on starting not this sprint, the next sprint. We'll focus more on starting to implement the application the way it looks like from an end user, right? Actually using the application, logging in, creating their own accounts, actually answering their own questions, FAQs, choosing a particular service, answering the questions for that particular service, folks actually making a search and identifying these folks. So we'll implement it from the end user's point of view, right? And that will be more open-ended. You'll be free to actually work on teams with little or no guidance from us, applying all the concepts and all the skills that we've been acquiring for the last so many months, or 2 months, and then just actually having you run actual sprints. Up to this point, we've been kind of introducing a new concept, a new software engineering concept, and applying it for that one sprint. Ideally, you all these concepts of testing and designing and QAing and whatnot, and planning, you apply them repeatedly every single sprint, right? You do design, you do testing, you do some implementation, some builds, and so the last few sprints will be much more open-ended. We'll say, well, these are the requirements, right? That this is what we need to build. Go off and do it, right? Obviously, applying, right, all the different concepts that we've been talking about all throughout the semester. Okay. Any questions? Yes. Yeah, only for the middle tier. Yes, but we'll enhance the pipeline to include also the front end a little later, not now. We just want to make sure we get it just connected first.
Are those going to be in separate pipelines or the same?
Yeah, we can split it into 2 pipelines and then make them connected so that one will depend on another. Right? So if any one of the pipelines fails, they can kick off each other. Also, there's a few fixes I'm doing on the midterm. So some of the questions might have been better written. So I'm going through them, and I think I've already fixed a few, and you might have seen your midterm grade go slightly up. And so I'll be looking at them. If I see that a lot of folks didn't answer it correctly, I'll assume it was a bad question. And I'll give you full credit for that question. Okay. Also have some feedback that I've got from you that I'm going to be working through the questions on the midterm and some of the quizzes. All right.